had a date to keep at my office in a part of town that's seen better days. Guess I've seen better days too. Spent my whole life investigating schools, looking for the best, exposing the worst. This is my story.
The Merrow Report. School Sleuth, the case of an excellent school, is brought to you by the Ford Foundation, the Pew Charitable Trusts, the Annie E. Casey Foundation, the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, and the Carnegie Corporation of New York, with additional funding by the Annenberg CPB Projects and the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation.
I was down on my luck. Hadn't seen a case in months. But that's the way the business always is. Sour, just before it turns sweet.
Mr. Merrow, I presume? School sleuth?
Yes. Come on in. Have a seat.
I have a worrisome case, Mr. Merrow. It requires a detective with a certain finesse.
You stopped at the right door, sweetheart. Lay it on me.
It's the schools. I'm trying to find the right one for my children, but I don't know how to choose. Everybody talks about test scores, but I know there's more to education than that. Can you help me?
I've been hearing about cases like yours. Parents with choice, trying to choose the right school. Let me tell you what I've learned over the years. Turns out there are three kinds of schools: bad, good enough, and excellent.
What's a good enough school?
It's the kind most people settle for. They want to believe they're okay, but deep down, they know better. Trouble is, nobody's willing to make change.
So they settle for less, play it safe?
That's right. Speaking of safety, everyone worries about safety. So that's where I'll start, in high school.
I'm listening.
And she was. I took a deep breath and pulled her into my story. Are public schools safe? That's hard to believe with all the shootings we've had.
911, where's your emergency? They've been shot at Westside Middle School.
When they started shooting at the children, 13 children got hit.
School shootings, like this one in Arkansas, are what most people think about when they think about safety.
Somewhere else.
Gun violence is on everyone's mind these days.
Jacket and books.
Philadelphia spent $5 million putting metal detectors in every public high school.
All bags.
Chicago did the same in its middle schools. Other schools are doing random searches, installing surveillance cameras, and more. These are not real gunmen.
Shots fired at Royal Palm Beach High School. 3 perpetrators running into the building going upstairs.
They're police pretending to be, part of a practice drill at Royal Palm Beach High School in Florida. SWAT teams from the sheriff's office stormed the building as students pretended to be the victims. Is all this heightened security somehow an overreaction to the threat of gun violence? Turns out school shootings are rare. There were 9 gun-related homicides last year, roughly 1 death for every 6 million students. Fights and assaults, however, are not rare. Last year, police responded to roughly 200,000 incidents. It goes without saying that good enough schools are physically safe places. But how can you tell? Try visiting the school, as I did, but don't use the front door. Use the back door instead, and the doors at the loading docks too. If you can walk in no questions asked, that's not good enough. Visit bathrooms to look for signs of trouble, like graffiti that names kids in a mean or threatening way, or that smacks of sexual harassment.
Bye, guys. Have a good day. Bye.
Having lots of adults around is one good way to keep schools safe. And not just security guards. In good enough schools, the teachers maintain a presence. Talk to students, too. Ask them about the places in school where they feel unsafe, and check them out for yourself. After Columbine, many schools feel compelled to emphasize violence prevention. Taken too far, however, it's having unintended consequences, even in good enough schools.
People cannot learn under stress. And I find children are so stressed right now.
Open your back, shorty.
Think about all the things that our kids are having to contend with and deal with. And then we add additional burdens on them in school, and then we expect them to be able to be comfortable enough and relaxed enough to learn. I think it's not going to happen.
Another unintended consequence of added security, kids may be bottling up normal emotions. That's a bad sign.
We have to be careful that in the name of safety, we aren't in some way quelling an openness to expression of different emotions and different feelings.
There is a little bit of a pressure not to admit to being on edge or being unhappy, because then automatically people are going to assume, or not assume, but just associate you with, oh, that's that kid who's going to fly off the handle at any moment.
I mean, should a kid be able to say, oh, I was so mad this morning, I just wanted to punch somebody?
Well, I say that at my workplace, so I would imagine I would say that a child should be able to say it.
You mentioned a third category, Mr. Merrow, excellent schools. Tell me about those.
Sure. Excellent schools provide more than physical safety. Think about how kids tease other kids.
Oh, they just call me Big Head.
Sometimes, like when I'm reading out loud or something, I can't get the word out. I start stuttering. And I've like call me stupid and stuff.
All they would do is that. They wouldn't even talk to me in a friendly way.
I hated being teased so much.
What you worry about are the kids who seem to take pleasure in harassing and insulting other kids, the bullies.
Excellent schools pay attention to emotional safety. That means that when children are teased or frightened or bothered, they feel comfortable taking their problems to the teachers, and the teachers will not dismiss them.
We turn our backs on a lot of the cruelty that goes on between children in school because we don't know what to do about it. A safe school is a school which feels that they're willing to tackle those.
Who's messing with you?
So they can even say, stop everything. We're not going to move until we have made sure this isn't going to happen again.
She's just playing with you. She's just teasing you.
Excellent schools are also intellectually safe. That is, it's okay to make mistakes.
There can't be a climate where the kids laugh at the wrong answer. And the kid will immediately shut down.
Can anybody just take a guess? It's okay if it's not right.
The ultimate test of a school is the willingness of any student to display her ignorance. The most risky thing you can do in a school, whatever your age, is to say, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't get it.
6 times 3 equals...
Intellectual safety.
3 times 6?
22.
The freedom to make mistakes.
6 times 3 equals...
allows for real teaching and real learning.
6 times 3 equals 18.
Great math.
The best teacher will challenge you, but at the same time not intimidate you. I mean, I know the biggest way to kill my motivation is to make me feel like I'm 2 inches tall.
Unless the kids can say, I don't get it, or I can't understand what you're talking about. And to be able to do that, knowing that the school is going to try to fill that void. The school that can do that is the really excellent school.
How do the adults in the building encourage that atmosphere?
Well, I think they should model it. That's what I always try to do. I think it's very important to emphasize that kind of intellectual curiosity, openness,
so in an
safety to say I don't know, and safety also to say I don't agree.
In excellent schools, teachers do not dismiss student errors or simply correct them. Instead, they use them constructively.
Let's say the answer to a math problem is 17 and a kid says 18. You know, a lot of caring teachers in the good enough classroom might say, ooh, you're close. You know, trying to be supportive and sympathetic, but saying you haven't gotten it right. But that's silly, Because what you want to know is, how is the child looking at this issue? What has he gotten or failed to quite grasp that has led to the answer that he or she got to? Now you have a classroom where A, thinking tends to happen more, and B, teachers understand where kids are falling short and why, and so they're in a much better position to help them.
So you see, most schools are physically safe, but emotional safety, intellectual safety, that's what makes an excellent school. Oh, there's also a common sense test.
What do you mean?
Listen to your kids. They'll tell you, maybe not directly, but they'll tell you when they don't feel safe at school. And they have a lot of unexplained absences, or they don't want to get out of bed in the morning. You know, my tummy hurts, Mom, that sort of thing.
Sounds like something your doctor can't cure, but a visit to your school might.
Now you're talking.
I'm impressed, Mr. Merrow. But I suspect that there's more to school than just getting through it in one piece. Look, I need answers. Stir things up for me. Oh, I almost forgot. Sweetener. For your services.
Thanks.
Any idea what's next?
Sure. It's academic. I'd been looking into academic quality, past the usual stuff about test scores, and I had plenty to give my client.
So, Mr. Merrow, got the skinny on academic quality?
Sure do, lady, and it's pure silk. There's more to quality than test scores. Once again, there are three kinds of schools: bad, good enough, and excellent.
We're going to write an observation about...
At first glance, it seems simple. In good enough schools, children are learning. In bad schools, they're not. Test scores will tell you that much. But to find excellence, you need to dig deeper, ask questions, use your eyes and ears. Start by looking at class size. Small classes, no more than 20 students, means more attention for your child. And don't take the district's word on class size. Count names on classroom doors. That way you'll know when someone's telling you a fish story. Inside classrooms, look for clues about academic quality in the arrangement of the desks.
The last thing you want to see is rows of desks behind each other with each kid stranded on his or her own desk as though on a separate island. What you want to find a lot of times is kids in small groups huddling together, challenging each other in a caring way, and figuring things out deeply.
Look carefully at the walls, too. What do you see in bad schools?
Nothing. You know, scrubbed cinder block painted light green.
Good enough schools cover their walls with interesting projects. But watch out for classrooms where most of the work looks the same. Cookie-cutter work points to a school that does not value original thinking.
Kids have learned that this is not about something that they have to do where they're making choices. They're primarily following directions, and it's not engaging and it's not that much fun, but it's easy.
What you see in excellent schools looks more like this: a wide variety of children's work, showing creativity and expression. And it doesn't just look good, it clearly shows an academic purpose.
The primary mission of a school is an academic mission. You look at the walls of the school, you see the art that they've produced, all on subject, mind you, all really related to learning, not just finger painting.
Here's something else to look for. This school has lots of interesting work: arts and crafts, papier-mâché models, sure signs of a good school. But notice the plaque crediting the students who made it 10 years ago. Old work is a sign of a bad school. Less dramatic is when winter's work still hangs in spring. In either case, it's a sign of stalled activity. So first, look carefully when you visit your child's school. Then close your eyes and listen.
I think silence is, in almost every case, a sign of a weak school.
If you're in a classroom where kids never talk, kids aren't going to learn how to articulate their ideas very well.
In the best kind of classrooms, there's a hum, there's a buzz of activity, of kids figuring stuff out and challenging one another and trying on ideas.
What is our key concept for today, Michelle?
To find
Go back
excellence,
and look
parents
again.
have to listen in other places, not just classrooms.
Listen in the cafeteria. What are the kids talking about? You have a tragedy in Kosovo. Does any 16-year-old think about that? Do they know where Kosovo is? Do they understand the religious clashes?
Aren't you setting the bar awfully high?
Oh yeah, why not? Sure, absolutely. These are kids who are almost old enough to serve in the Army. And they might go to Kosovo. I mean, the real test of a good school is not what they do when you assign them a question. It's what they do when you're not looking.
7 times 3 equals 21.
It's not fair to judge a school based on what you can see and hear in a single visit. After all, your senses can only carry you so far. Parents need to dig deeper, ask tough questions, starting with who's teaching their children.
Every year, millions of secondary school students are taught core academic subjects by teachers who do not have even a college minor in the field.
Millions.
Millions, yes.
That includes 25% of all English and history teachers and 30% of all math and science teachers. But well-trained teachers, like Michael Cartwright, often are simply ordered by their school principal to teach subjects they haven't studied.
I did a horrible job the year I taught health because I couldn't do the, I'm trying to think what the terms are, I couldn't do the CPR. I mean, legally I could not, it was dangerous. I couldn't do the Heimlich maneuver because I didn't know it. And I didn't know all the drug names for all the drugs are out. Kids would ask me questions, and I refused to do sex education. I just didn't do it.
Okay, you can begin.
Ask tough questions about testing, too. How many standardized tests per year? How much class time will teachers spend practicing for tests?
What are the 4 things we look for in characterization?
In this public school,
Hurry up,
class
come on,
time
everybody.
was IGAP time.
Everybody, what do we look for in characterization?
That's the name of the state test that was given every spring. Test preparation began 7 months earlier in October, less than 2 months into the school year.
Everything we do is the IGAP. In every class, every subject, they teaching us about the IGAP.
All your classes?
Yeah, all of them, including gym.
Oh, come on.
And music too. Because they have a test about music on the IGAP. And that's what we do in music.
Unfortunately, lots of good enough schools use class time to practice for standardized tests.
You may begin.
It's the wrong approach. Scores may go up, but the quality of education goes down.
You do need facts in order to think in a given area, but if all you do is memorize facts, the tendency is the kids don't remember it. It becomes like memorizing a random list of telephone numbers. And it narrows the content toward virtual trivia.
The way to prep for them is to have a good education. And then people will then discover, oh yes, if we do all these things that produce a good education, kids will also do well in tests.
It's tempting for schools to focus on the kinds of questions test makers ask.
Are you ready to do it?
Multiple choice questions with clear right and wrong answers. Test scores carry enormous weight. Jobs, prestige, graduation are on the line. But the test mentality often runs counter to good education.
The real world is not a series of set, pre-digested answers. The real world is a set of questions. And take the issue, an issue so difficult that very few of us will want to talk about it in schools, and that is cloning. The biology of cloning, boy, that raises questions. And, you know, what's the right answer?
Excellence
is talking about that kind of issue in a very informed way. What's the biology of cloning?
There's one more mark of excellence. In the best schools, students often use what they're learning to solve real problems. For instance, what to do about rundown schools.
You've done stories, John, where you've shown schools that were in disrepair. If you were to say Charlie and Mary work together and come up with a budget for painting the school building. And that could be an algebra problem, much more interesting than an algebra problem about, will the plane leaving Chicago meet the plane leaving LA?
When the skills are meaningful, that's when we as human beings learn them. If they're given enough of a wonder at the universe, then they will and can continue to learn once they leave you. If they believe, on the other hand, that learning is just incorporating everything the teacher says, and that's what being successful in school or being a successful learner is, when the teacher's not there, then it ends.
So that's bad, good enough, and excellent academics. I suppose that wraps up the case.
I'm not so sure. Just thinking about paint jobs reminds me of all the other tidying up schools need.
I've heard that nearly half of all public schools were built more than 50 years ago.
It's true. How could they possibly be in good enough shape to be excellent? Can you even have an excellent school in a not-so-excellent building?
So many questions. I don't suppose we'll find any quick answers.
Not in this business, lady. Hey, look, investigation like this can lighten your wallet pretty quick. You want to drop the case, I'd understand.
I'll worry about my wallet, Mr. Merrow. You worry about the schools. Dig into physical conditions, school environment. I told you, I need help choosing. Solve this mystery, and I'll double your fee.
I think I'm starting to like working for you. I'd spent the whole next day poring over school facilities, trying to pin down what's bad, good enough, and excellent. I'd learned a lot, mostly that you can't judge a book by its cover, unless, of course, the cover is falling off. A lot of our public schools are in terrible shape. A recent study estimated the repair bill would come to $268 billion. The mold, mildew, and poor air quality in these dilapidated schools may be responsible for the increases in childhood diseases, including asthma. What should you look for? Check out the front door. If you see signs of neglect here, you'll probably see more of the same inside, like dirty hallways, broken bathrooms, run-down science labs, even holes in the roof. Extension cords are a sign of a bad electrical system. An old boiler can turn classrooms into an icebox or a sweatbox. All of this steals attention from learning and sends a powerful message to the kids.
If the walls are dirty and the bathrooms are foul, it says something to the kids. The kids notice this, you know. They couldn't respect me very much, or they wouldn't treat where I'm supposed to be working so shoddily.
Teachers get the message too. Conditions in Nancy Caruso's high school were so bad they made teaching an everyday struggle.
I had no water and I was supposed to teach science. I was toting water from a decaying toilet, basically. Little gallon containers, one at a time. And it was just very frustrating for me.
Excuse me, boys and girls, if you're not listening.
Something else that makes teaching difficult is overcrowding. That's easy enough to spot. Just look for portable classrooms on school grounds or makeshift classrooms in hallways, cafeterias, and gyms. All those kids in the hall, are they your kids?
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. They share their books and they need some time to spread out, and I can't do it in my classroom.
I've never heard of first grade with 48 kids. What's it like for you?
It's very, very difficult. It's very hard teaching them how to read.
Bring your books up, please.
Teaching them routines. It is very, very difficult.
Good enough schools have room for children, especially young children. They need space. Good enough schools have classrooms with a variety of activity spaces, including lots of books and a place for arts and crafts.
I like to see a sense of what somebody called purposeful clutter. It's a kind of place that feels warm, but it also shows evidence that kids are active participants in the learning and problem solving that goes on there.
Good enough schools also have plenty of supplies, like lots of materials for children to handle, construct, and investigate. It's worth asking teachers if they've had to buy their own supplies. In good enough schools, they shouldn't have to. Good enough high schools have plenty of books, and they're in good condition, not like the ones these students in New Hampshire were reading.
I have an English book here. I got so many notes on this English book that I haven't even taken that I mean, every page is full of scribble outs and underlining, and every word is there got a definition next to it that must have been here for at least 10 years. And so I start to read in class, and then I have to stop every 5 minutes because I don't know what a couple words are, sentences, because they're all scribbled out.
It pays to take a close look at your child's textbooks. Here's one I came across recently, and here's the man it lists as president. Old textbooks are a sign of a bad school. In addition to books, good enough schools have plenty of computers. But more important than how many machines or how new is how the technology is being used. This is what you'll see in bad schools and in many schools that are just good enough. Technology being used in predictable ways, mainly for drill and practice.
I've seen schools out there that have unbelievable access to technology that are really doing nothing more than what they could do with paper and pencil.
Excellent schools use technology in imaginative ways to let students create their own artwork, communicate with young people in another part of the world,
Introduce yourselves and say hello to everybody.
explore a museum online, or fly over the surface of Mars.
I think the excellence comes in instilling that sense of passion in kids, getting them to be active learners, getting them to strive to create their own knowledge of the world.
Remember how I showed you to make a line across? Remember?
As long as elementary schools are using technology creatively, it's okay if they don't have the fastest computers. But high schools, to be good enough, have to be up to date.
Because the ability to gain access to all sorts of information is just exploding. You can do so many things you couldn't do 3 years ago. And it is, particularly for schools that don't have an awful lot of money, it is access to a library beyond your wildest dreams.
However, your school should have its own library. Make sure you check it out. Bad elementary schools have libraries like this one, perched on a stage in the cafeteria. These books are old. A good place to check is the science section. Good enough elementary schools have real libraries, inviting places where children can curl up with a book. They also have certified librarians. Half of all public schools do not. The best librarians spend their time helping teachers and students find the right book. They're not there simply to check books in and out.
You had to figure out what the acceleration.
Good enough high school libraries allow students to dig deeper into their subjects. Excellent ones are wired to the internet and keep the technology in easy reach of students. Of course, a spiffy, state-of-the-art building does not guarantee that the school is excellent. But without good facilities, excellence is an uphill climb.
It's certainly easier to excel when you feel a sense of pride about your school. On the other hand, I've seen schools that are no great shakes to look at, where there are teachers and there are students who are excelling, despite the physical plant.
Oh, I've seen wonderful schools in hovels, and I've seen what I thought were terrible schools in palaces.
Let's not forget that the real facilities are invisible.
Take out notebooks.
The real facilities is what kind of training does this teacher have? What is going on in the classroom, and what is the child actually learning? What's going into the child's mind? And is the child being inspired? And that can happen in a hovel. And it shouldn't happen in a hovel, but it can.
I would wish a hovel on no one. The tools have to be there. You can't teach serious science without laboratories. You can't teach serious history without a combination of access to the internet and a first-class library and a first-class librarian. And so I look for those things.
That's what I put down in my report to my client, along with a note I scribbled to come to my office the next day. I got there first. Lucky for her, unlucky for me.
Well. If it ain't Mr. School Sleuth himself.
How'd you get in here?
We can go anywhere we want. As a matter of fact, I'm perusing some of your files. Safety, academic quality, physical, environment. What's bad, good enough, and excellent? Interesting case, Merrow. Too bad you're gonna have to drop it.
Drop it? Says who?
The status quo, that's who. The folks who like schools just the way they are. I mean, you're making good enough schools look bad, and bad enough schools look worse.
Gee, I'm really sorry about that.
Sorry? Sorry? Do you have any idea what happens to people who mess with the status quo?
No. Why don't you show me?
Gladly.
Mr. Merrow. Mr. Merrow. Mr. Merrow, can you hear me? Oh, you're a mess. What happened? Are you all right?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Some goon tried to muscle me off the case. Worked me over pretty good. Did you get my report?
Yes, about school facilities. Nice work.
There's more to this case of an excellent school. After I finished poking around in the school buildings, I started asking questions about the adults in charge. Administrators, principals, teachers. Turns out that's a case of bad, good enough, and excellent too.
Really? Tell me more.
Excellence begins at the top with principals. I come into the school and the principal is in his or her office. I come in again, the principal's in his or her. Every time I come in, the principal's in his or her office. Good sign, bad sign?
Bad sign. Yeah, bad sign, because how do you know what's going on unless you're going around finding out, sitting in, making everybody think that you are watching over.
Marcia Capuano was an excellent principal at Harshman Middle School in Indianapolis. She seemed to spend most of her time in the classrooms and halls, getting to know her students. You don't seem to spend a whole lot of time sitting behind your desk.
No, I don't. And that frustrates some people too.
Good principal should be in the office?
That's right. And that's not where the action is.
Come on, guys, hurry up. Let's go. Let's go. Ladies, you've got a ways to go to get down there. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Is that it? Touchdown.
The action is in hallways and classrooms, and that's where excellent principals can usually be found,
Where are you going?
getting to know students.
Yeah, I usually know all the kids. You know, I don't always know all their last names, and I know their first names, but you see them in the halls, and you see them in the cafeteria, and you see them out the buses, and I don't know any other way to know the children unless you know who they are.
My digits are 3, 6, and 7.
Excellent principals also know that the primary purpose of school is academic.
The first sign of excellence, I think, is to take academic leadership. Right now, many principals consider themselves administrators and somebody else is in charge of the academics.
Bad principal is one who never goes into the classrooms, who just spends time in the office dealing with whatever issues are there, who focuses more on the administration of the school than on the instruction that goes on in the school.
Principals who put academics first don't interrupt classes with announcements over the PA.
Miss Slater, if you're in the building, you have a call on line 1.
Oh, I really don't like the PA announcements.
We turn it off.
I don't think very many people listen to them.
I find it's very distracting. It's outrageous.
Another place to pick up clues about your principal, sit in on a faculty meeting.
We will be using 5 entrances for entering school and for leaving school. And only 9th graders will come in the front door.
Bad principals monopolize meetings, go on and on about administrative details, not much about teaching and learning. Teachers learn pretty quickly to sit in the back of the room. Maybe they grade papers, maybe they don't.
I think the excellent principal doesn't run most of the faculty meetings, for example, but lets that responsibility rotate among all the interested staff members. Again, not only empowering teachers, but modeling for teachers the way a more democratic and excellent classroom would look.
1 layer times 3 layers.
Excellent principals protect teachers, stand up for them.
The good principal actually is one who would put his or her job on the line, in my estimation, to protect the teachers, to allow them to do the kinds of teaching that they know would make sense.
They don't get dictated from some central authority that here's what you do, here's what you teach, this many hours, this many minutes, this many times a day. They really take the responsibility to educate those children, and they stand accountable for the results, but they're given the freedom to manage that environment.
So what is an analogy? What is an analogy? I'll write it on the board.
Excellent principals give teachers respect, support, control over their classrooms, and a say in school governance. Then teachers are not likely to retire on the job or burn out. Unfortunately, excellence is rare. Burnout is not.
There's more than average burnout in public school teaching, and we all know that. The system is oppressive. The system has rules and regulations. It has no coherence. It's infested with politics. Yes, and if a principal, there's where leadership comes in. If you have a good leader where teacher morale, faculty morale is high, you're less likely to have burnout.
So, an excellent principal makes a world of difference.
You got it, lady. But a classroom teacher figures more in a kid's education. There, too, you've got to know the difference between bad, good enough, and excellent.
You are the what? Best in the what? Word.
Excellent teachers have high expectations for their students. Bad teachers do not.
We believe, deep down, most Americans believe, that some people are smart and some aren't. And so you can expect some to learn and others not to.
Teachers with that attitude are the ones who frequently put students down.
Now, if the teacher's yelling, "You are just so dumb, you never do anything right, I don't see how you're ever going to make it through middle school, look at this," that's not a good teacher.
Teachers like that are quick to make excuses why most of their students are not learning, because they're disadvantaged, because they just don't care, because they're learning disabled, even ADD.
Now, I don't believe that some can learn and some can't. I really do believe that everybody can, and I believe it because I've seen it.
Let's take a look at the next sentence.
Good enough teachers believe that all children can learn. Excellent teachers make it happen.
Because the results show it, the test scores. And there's a lot of, we're going to work at this until we get it.
Some people still are not finished with their sentences.
You haven't mastered this, but we're going to master it.
Everything has to be done exactly what we talked about earlier.
There's a certain sort of pushing that is characteristic, I think, of really good teaching, where you push the envelope.
At the end of a sentence, what will we see? A period.
Pushing the envelope may require raising your voice, yelling, but it's good yelling.
What good yelling is if the teacher says, "You are too smart to give me work like this. Do you see this? Now I know you are brilliant. I have worked with you before and I know this. How could you give me this kind of information on this paper?"
That's good yelling.
That's good yelling.
Cross multiply.
Another sign of excellence, something parents should pay attention to, is the way teachers grade homework. The more comments, the better.
Grading is an opportunity to have a conversation with a student about something concrete, about a student's work. And what you say to them means a lot. I know even on assignments that I did as a student where I got very good marks, that I'd be disappointed if I just got an A or an A minus or a B plus. I wanted to know why this paper or this document was an A or an A minus or a B plus. And so I think as a teacher you lose an opportunity if that's all you do.
Some high school teachers don't have enough time for grading papers because they have too many students. A few years ago, I met high school history teacher Chip Nyan.
You know, I have 183 students, and I'm pretty tired by the end of the day, and it gets tough, it gets wearing, it's hard to go home and correct tests. I mean, you never seem to be caught up.
How many kids do you have to get to know at once? And if you say 65, I would say you have a shot at it. If you said 165, I said, John, you're just in the crowd control business.
Now try it out, work it out, and then we're going to do it on the board, okay? See if you can
Teaching is a tough profession, and good enough teachers work hard. Excellent teachers go the extra mile for their students. How can you tell? Visit the parking lot. It's a bad sign if it's always empty 20 minutes after the school day ends. In schools with dedicated staff, teachers tend to arrive early and stick around late. In excellent schools, there's a buzz of activity long after dismissal.
5 for 3.
I was in a school on Friday, and school ended at 3, and none of the kids would leave. They were on a Friday, and I looked around and told the administrator, this is saying something, you know, if your kids don't want to leave.
And it's saying?
It's saying it's a good place to be. It feels good here. This is a place and a space that I want to stay in.
In those rare schools, the kind that students don't want to leave, teachers genuinely care about the kids, and that's the final mark of excellence.
I'd rather have my child or my grandchild in a classroom whose curriculum and pedagogy I'm not so crazy about, but this teacher certainly likes and respects them.
Very good to me, yeah. Give me a nice bear hug. Tight.
That's also the bottom line of a school. There's some schools that seem to like kids. They just, you feel it about the place. This is a place that likes kids and that likes even their naughtiness. They don't tell the kids they like their naughtiness, but you can tell by the tone of their voice, the expression, by listening to them in the teacher's lounge, that they really just plain enjoy these children. They think they are fun. They're adorable. They're lovable. They're children. They could be my children.
So you see, people are the most important part of any school. You can't have excellence without leadership. Still, it's a crazy world out there, and there are lots of obstacles to finding and keeping good people. Lousy working conditions, meddling school boards, low salaries, not to mention an indifferent public and sluggish bureaucracies. I'm not sugarcoating this for you, lady.
Come on, Mr. Merrow. You're bringing me down. Where's the good news?
I needed to say something, do something to cheer her up. Lucky for me, I had an ace up my sleeve. I need just one more day to crack this case. We'll bust it wide open, throw the book at the status quo and their two-bit soldiers.
That's more like it.
And lady, this day's on me.
You're sweet. So, you think you solved this case?
Gift wrapped, ready to go.
That's wonderful news. I'm so excited.
This wasn't an open and shut affair. Lucky I caught a break. My associates picked up that thug who roughed me up last night. Brought him in for questioning.
Bust off, school sleuth. Got nothing on me.
Nothing? After all we've seen? Safety, academic quality, physical environment, the adults in the building, that's nothing? You must be a graduate of one of these good enough schools. Talk now, Mr. Status Quo, or you're cooked.
All right. You win. I'll spill.
And he did, down to the last drop. He confessed that excellent schools know what they stand for. They have a sense of purpose.
Its purpose should be the intellectual life of kids, that kids should be able to exhibit serious, thoughtful habits of mind.
The focus is always on the child. The whole purpose of a school, the whole purpose of an education, the whole purpose of having teachers, custodians, buildings, is to help the child learn, grow, develop.
Schools with a sense of purpose know their goals. Teachers can tell parents exactly what the children are going to be doing, exactly what they're going to learn.
Ask your school, what is my child supposed to learn this year? And if they give you a lot of vague stuff about getting along with people, cooperating, learn about other cultures, and so on, extremely vague answers, that's a danger signal.
What's a good answer?
A good answer is we're learning about Egypt and Mesopotamia and farming and early painting and so on, and you have something quite specific.
The first group is...
In excellent schools, teachers can not only tell you what your child is learning, they also know what other children in other grades are learning. That's rare.
You know, first grade teachers never spend time in the fifth grade teacher's class. And I think we need to have that happen. I think we need the fifth grader teachers to spend time in the first grade class. Otherwise, what I continue to see is that we often in our schools do the same thing year after year after year and never move on to new material.
In purposeful schools, learning follows a clear path from year to year. And within each grade, there's planning to make sure subjects connect with each other. That's another sign of excellence.
So at the middle school, for example, you're going to see often a humanities curriculum that combines language, English, social studies, and the arts into something very exciting where the kids become detectives and looking at works of art and trying to deduce what kind of society that was, how people related to each other, was there equality or inequality, and so on. But you'll find that going across all of the classrooms.
Okay, so get into your groups in this area, and let's see you spell out a word.
Connections among subjects are everywhere in excellent schools, like this one, where gym class starts with an exercise in literacy.
Give me a C. Give me an A. Give me the letter T. What's that spell? Excellent. Okay, how about B for Bieber, Mr. Bieber, uppercase B?
If that's excellent, what's bad?
A mindless school, a school that you know, has 9-period day, where French has nothing to do with English and physics has nothing to do with math.
But that's exactly how many good enough schools are run. Why? Because it's easier.
You don't have to talk to the math teacher if you're the social studies teacher. You don't have to figure out a way to get students to do projects that cut across these disciplinary lines. The great schools that I've seen are ones that have taken that challenge and have really run with it. They've really created curriculums that force students and teachers to think across those lines.
And then what is the 2? 12 minus 9.
Of course, a great curriculum is only a starting point. You've also got to know how much children are learning. Excellent schools monitor students' progress and intervene accordingly. At Green Holly Elementary, students are tested frequently, not to give grades, but to provide a diagnosis.
I don't apologize for the frequent assessment at all. I mean, like if you ran a small business, you'd want to know, you know, are we making money this month? Are we not making money this month? Which of our product lines are working, which are not? You know, what did our advertising strategy pay off or didn't it? You know, you'd be crazy as a small business owner not to be looking for that kind of information. You'd go broke in a year. And, you know, a school needs to be thinking along very similar lines.
A sense of purpose, knowing where you're going and whether you're actually headed in that direction, does not happen by accident. It takes time for teachers to meet and plan. That's something most teachers in most schools do not get.
You know, we made a big mistake in thinking that the teacher's time in school is the same as kids' time. Kids come at 8:30, teachers should come at 8:30. Kids go home at 3 o'clock, teachers go home at 3 o'clock. School starts September 2nd, teachers should get there September 1st. And we don't set up summer camps that stupidly.
Do you have a sense, Don, about, in an excellent school, how much time teachers have to talk to their colleagues to prepare?
Lots. I worked in a school that's done it, 2 hours a day.
We spend 3 weeks together over the summer. We spend 5 hours a week, 5 collective hours together, dealing with intellectual and pedagogical and curricular problems that the school faces.
This is one of the characteristics of a really good school, where teachers get together and work together to decide on school policy, on teaching policy, on the substance of what they're teaching.
It's not enough just to be present with the kids. You've got to go, and it's not enough just to study their homework. You've got to keep your own craft moving along.
In schools with a sense of purpose, teachers develop a liking for each other and a sense of trust. There are signs of that, too.
If you and I were wandering around a school, I would like to be able to see open doors where there is serious discussion of work that the kids had done themselves.
Open doors?
Open doors.
A lot of teachers close their doors.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know many architects' offices that are very efficient with closed doors. I don't know of many schools which, ideal schools, which need to close the doors all the time.
Thank you.
Open doors tell you that teachers share, cooperate, and communicate. There's a feeling of community in schools with a purpose.
You sense the spirit in this building, the way the teachers and the clerks and the custodians and the children, the way they all feel. They like each other, they cooperate with each other. All of that makes it possible for the adults to help the children grow.
The twos are gonna lean back and the ones are gonna lean in. 1, 2, 3.
Of course, in excellent schools, parents feel they're part of the community too. One good test is whether it's difficult for them to visit.
I would say excellent schools have open doors for parents, and beyond open doors, welcome parents when they enter and have things that parents can do. Can I show you to your child's class? Would you like to do some things to help your child's teacher? She has a folder here of things that she'd like done if anybody has time to do them.
In schools with a clear purpose, everyone has a responsibility to further the academic mission, including students themselves. How? By helping out in the classroom, by acting as reading buddies, tutors, and mentors. There are lots of ways kids can give back as long as the schools are open-minded enough to let them.
I wonder, how much are kids included in thinking about what kind of school do we want to have? You know, what should we put here? How should the lunchroom function? What kind of tables should we have? Are round tables more conducive to, you know, a humane lunch-eating experience than long rectangular tables? Ask the kids.
In excellent schools, children discuss the kind of classroom they want and then help write the classroom rules. That way, they're more likely to follow them. Same applies to older students.
Are you saying the kids make the rules?
I think the kids and adults together have to make the rules. How are you going to keep drugs out of a school unless there's a significant percentage of kids who say, we don't do that here?
Well, by golly, we'll have some dogs that sniff out drugs and we'll have enough cops.
Their kids are a lot smarter than dogs.
Here's a secret excellent schools have known all along. Make students part of the team and they'll want to join the game, not play games of their own.
The best part of it is if you do it, they will learn what they need to know so they can be productive citizens. People want to be part of the solution. And if you don't give them an opportunity to be part of the solution, they're going to be part of the problem.
When all the pieces are in place, safety, academic quality, the building, the adults in charge, a sense of purpose, the result is excellence. And you can see it in the kids' faces.
There's no rule that says that schooling should be boring, that it should be uninteresting, that it should be the antithesis of fun. There's no rule that says that. I don't know why it is that somehow we expect that that's what schooling is about. You go to a great school, you go to an excellent school, and you see the smiles on kids' faces. You see the sense of passion and purpose on their faces, and you see their genuine enjoyment for what it is that they're doing. And you know that something is happening that's right there. And that's probably the most poignant indication of the status of that school in the spectrum from good to excellent.
There. That's everything I know. Am I done?
Sure. But don't let me catch you hanging around schools ever again. Nah, screw it.
I think that wraps it up then. I hope this covers your services.
You're more than generous.
I'm glad I hired you, Mr. Merrow. I feel a lot better about choosing a school. You know, you really do need to play the detective to find the right school for your child.
I enjoyed working this case too. Say, I feel like celebrating. What do you say you and I go out tonight? Dinner? A few drinks?
May I be blunt, Mr. Merrow?
Sure.
Men are a lot like schools. There's bad, good enough, and excellent, if you get my drift. Good night, Mr. Merrow.
For more information on this program, please visit PBS online at pbs.org. A production of South Carolina ETV and Learning Matters Incorporated.